Ohio counts down to Election Day. Welcome to Columbus on the Record. With a little more than a week to go before Election Day, the abortion rights campaign is intensifying. If passed, Issue 1 would enshrine abortion rights in the Constitution. Supporters have the fundraising advantage, raising 3 times the amount opponents have raised. So look to see that play out with the number of TV ads in the coming days. Governor DeWine is softening his stance on Ohio's 6-week abortion ban, which is on hold right now. This week, he told WCMH-TV that the law goes too far, a comment much different than his position when he signed the law in 2019.
The signing of this bill today is consistent with that respect for life and the imperative to protect those who cannot protect themselves.
The governor tells Channel 4 he now thinks the legislature should consider making an exception for rape and incest. After signing that law, he was asked that very question, and here's how he answered it.
This is an administration that has and will continue. And the budget we have presented to the General Assembly has a great deal of focus on helping pregnant women, making sure that they have every assistance that they need.
Julie Carr Smythe, the governor was pretty clear in 2019. Government's role is to protect the vulnerable. He said Senate bill, or not, the heartbeat law protected the unborn, which he considered vulnerable. And when asked about exceptions for rape or incest, he said, look at the state budget. What's changed?
Well, a lot has changed in that time. We obviously saw the overturning of Roe versus Wade at the federal level and the protections that went with it. And that has created sort of a rolling series of events across the states as they try to decide what to do with abortion. And in every single case so far, states red and blue have upheld abortion rights. So the Republican Party, which has been sort of very stringent in its restrictions, now is seeing reality hit of enforcing these laws and also looking at prevailing public opinion on the issue and hoping not to be on the wrong side of the issue. So we've seen a lot of groups, including Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America, one of the most influential, talking about compromises on what some would call abortion abolition.
So Terry, this has been a very consistent position for Governor DeWine since he first entered public life. He is opposed to abortion rights. If you're opposed to abortion rights, why compromise now? Is it just because he sees the writing on the wall, or is he having a change of heart?
Well, I think things evolve not only in biology, but also in politics. And several months back earlier this year, he was warning the legislature, people have the power of the referendum in Ohio. You need to look at what's realistic. And when you look around the world, most of Europe has a 12 or 15, 18-week limit in there, and the question is whether that's something more. And clearly the exception, I remember back to 1990 when he ran with George Voinovich, both of them modified their position to allow, at that point, exceptions for rape and incest. So politicians have to balance out where the public's at, where they think the law is. And again, when the Roe versus Wade came down and you saw what it was, that was a point where people had to realize what's really going to work or not.
Derek, President Obama, when he was in office, he evolved on the issue of gay marriage. He was opposed to it at first, and then when he was president, I forget if it was first or second term, he said he now supported it. Is it evolution, or is it following where the voters are going?
I think it could be a little bit of where the voters are going. Yeah. I mean, there's several polls out there that say that the public is clearly in favor of issue 1. You know, this is really about choice, and people in the state are tired of the government telling them how to regulate their bodies.
There's no way, Terry, that he's going to get the legislature to compromise on this. Maybe a rape and incest exception if issue 2 fails.
Well, we'll see how this issue passes, what kind of margin it does with, but it is interesting, picking up on what Derek said, that the pro-abortion side, one of their big messages is about protecting freedom and protecting people from government control. And normally that's more of a Republican conservative message. So obviously these things politically get intertwined and different sides take different views of it. But their whole message of freedom is an interesting one.
Julie, he says that, if he wants issue one to lose, go back to the legislature, try to work out a compromise. If that doesn't happen, we can go back to the ballot for another amendment. And he said, whatever a majority of Ohioans want, that's what we want to get. Well, if issue one passes, that's a majority of Ohioans, right?
Right, and there's a possibility it'll be far more than just a simple majority as well. And we think, based on polling, we've seen 55, 58% of Americans, and that generally carries in Ohio. So I think the question is sort of watching the legislature thus far on this, and they could have stepped in any number of points. Obviously, DeWine tried to get them to, as Terry mentioned before, and said maybe we should work here on something. And I was under the impression that behind the scenes he was trying to press that point. We could come out looking like champions here for some kind of a compromise that most people like, and we could deflate the idea of going to the ballot with it. And that never happened.
Yeah. Getting to the campaign, Derek. The yes on one side, according to financial disclosures, has raised $29 million. The no on one side, $10 million. I don't think I've seen $29 million worth of TV ads. Are you surprised by that number based on what we are seeing on TV for ads in the campaign?
Yeah, we've seen a ramp up in recent weeks, right? It doesn't seem like it would be $29 million worth of campaign ads, but when you think about, the Cleveland media market, the Central Ohio media market, Cincinnati, and so on and so forth, I mean, it could add up to that. So, I know that there's a lot of money that's pouring in from out of state for this issue. And I think that you're going to see a barrage of ads between now and Election Day.
One of the reasons why that 29 million is so big, when in issue campaigns, you've got to pay the higher market rate to get TV ads on, whereas if you're a candidate, you pay a lowest unit rate. So that's part of the difference. Plus, there's a lot of out-of-state consultants on both sides, and for some reason or another, they like to revenue share and put a lot of money in their pockets, so it's expensive.
On the no side, 1/3 the amount, that shows a lack of enthusiasm.
Well, they've had more difficulty raising money, and part of it is, I think part of the factor at play now is we had the August 8th election, and there are a lot of voters. One of the questions on turnout is in urban areas, certain other areas, was the turnout as exciting, or did people think, well, we already decided this on August 8th? And when you go out to rural parts of the state, there's, I think, more enthusiasm, and the numbers show there's a little more voter activity out there.
Right, but it does seem like the number difference also shows, I think, because issue 1 of August, issue 1.0, was defeated, they could have then had some trouble because people saw the writing on the wall that these were similar. Now, I don't know that they necessarily were similar because there were a lot of independents who didn't want to modify the Constitution constitutional threshold for passing amendments from 50% to 60%, and that's a totally different question in some camps than abortion rights.
Yeah, and these issues do cross party lines. One that does is marijuana. The campaign to legalize recreational marijuana has been fairly quiet, but the Yes on Issue 2 campaign is up with its first TV ad. It plays on Ohio's rivalry with Michigan and claims Ohio is losing lots of tax revenue because Ohioans are traveling to the state to the north to buy legal marijuana. Derek, this is their first ad. Not that marijuana is safe or that it should be regulated like alcohol. It's like, no, we're losing cash to Michigan. And it was all maize and blue and Michigan font,
Hey, listen, Buckeyes, we love our Buckeyes, so we're very competitive when it comes to the state of Michigan. Mm-hmm. So I think it's relatively it's smart on their behalf to kind of compare us to Michigan and say how revenue is going to the state up north versus staying here in Ohio.
Terry, this is the right out of the playbook for legalizing casinos. All the money's going to Pennsylvania and West Virginia and Indiana. We should keep that money here, right?
Well, but the difference is in 2009, the economy was really bad and people heard that
Republicans
siren.
say the economy is really bad now, don't they?
Well, inflation is really bad, and I've seen this ad, but there's not much of a buy so far behind it. I've seen an ad for the no side that's pretty good and makes some good messages. But again, the question is, when are both of them going to put some money? Because one of the problems on the yes side for marijuana, they spent so much money in the effort to get the petitions and the signatures, they didn't have much left to run the campaign. So it really is a tale of two cities, these campaigns. One with tons of money, the other with very limited, and we'll see what happens in the last week. But I think that issue is still fluid, because when you look at the Baldwin Wallace poll, age 50 plus that are more likely to vote, it was like a dead even thing. They've got to get big turnout of young voters in urban areas in order to pass it.
Yeah, and I think that we will see the issue 2 no campaign answer that at some point in the last week. But I think that, you know, their arguments so far haven't really broken through. I mean, it really has to do with safety. You know, they have studies on traffic safety, and there's the manufacturers and the business groups are out against it on workplace safety and workers' comp rates and other things. But, you know, those are pretty in the weeds, to make a little pun there.
Yeah.
And I don't know really how that's going to, if that can get through, and when voting's already begun a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and there's so many competing studies too. That you can't. It's still a relatively new industry. It's been 15 years, I think, in Oregon or in Washington State and Colorado, but it's still a fairly young industry.
Yeah.
But if you talk to nurses like a children's hospital, they'll tell you one of the big problems are kids coming in there in the ER because of gummies left around by their parents. And in this law, they actually require a certain potency, and there isn't limits on it like there is on alcohol as far as what the content percentage is.
Derek, this does not break down according to party lines. I talked to a guy from Brookings this week, and he showed that in Maryland, when they approved this last year, all counties voted for it.
Right.
And they're as divided as we are. Not quite the same, doesn't look the same, but they have red counties and blue counties, and every county voted to legalize marijuana,
Right.
even hard red Republican counties.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a popular issue, and it will pass on Election Day. You know, it's going to pass big. Now the question is, you know, how would the legislature tinker with it?
But in urban counties, it didn't do as well. It still passed, but not by the margin that the governor won down in Maryland. And this person said it was to Terry's point, it was all age. So how do you get young people out in an odd year election? There's no president on the ballot. Donald Trump's not on the ballot. Barack Obama's not on the ballot to energize people. Will they come out for this?
I think that this is one of those issues where young people that are of voting age will definitely come out, because it's something that, you know, whether you're 21 or whether you're 41 or 51, you know, people want their gummies, and they want their, you know, they want their substance. And right now, other folks go to other states to get it.
Well, and I've been talking to some of the groups that are trying to mobilize the young voters and the campuses, and they're claiming there's a lot of motivation around issue 1 that could carry to issue 2, as far as you know, just getting the folks out. I know that there was some confusion originally, I mean, among all voters, not only young voters, as far as whether we had already decided the abortion issue in the summer, well, which was sort of a proxy vote, but it wasn't. And so I think that will, they said that they have been working hard to kind of re-educate people on the fact they need to get out and vote.
That's where a lack of TV ads, Terry, on which, you know, issue 1 is totally opposite what the issue 1 was in August. It could be confusing to folks who aren't paying close attention.
Well, and you got to remember the municipal election year, and I think I picked up from election officials around the state, there's a difference in a lot of the rural and medium-sized counties. There's a lot more voter interest out there because naturally for them, township trustees, school boards, local city councils, that's more important and pressing than in some big cities where there's little or no competition and no excitement out there.
All right, our next topic, the process of voting continues to cause confusion and controversy. Voters now must show a photo ID, and a fair number of voters did not have one when they tried to cast a ballot in August. An Ohio Public Radio analysis of rejected provisional ballots shows the number of ballots rejected in August was 4 times what it was in last November's election. And it came out this week that Secretary of State Frank LaRose quietly purged some 26,000 voters from the rolls last month. The move was legal and it's required by federal law, but doing it a month before a statewide election featuring controversial issues has raised questions. Terry Casey, why not just wait until after November to purge the rolls, which he would have done this year anyway?
Well, as you correctly made the point, it was a 1993 law signed by Bill Clinton that requires the so-called list maintenance because we want government records, whether it's your home or your car, to be accurate. And they don't just, if you miss one election, you're immediately purged. It's almost a 6-year plus process. And they send out a variety of first-class returnable, forwardable mail in order to get people. But there's some burden on, if you're a voter, there is some responsibility if you're moving around to register new or cancel your old ones. So it's not the big thing that some people want. And by the way, what Ohio does and how we do it was upheld in 2018 by the U.S. Supreme Court decision saying what was done by Republican and Democrat Secretary of States is legal, appropriate, and required.
Julie, one of the questions is, I mean, in the past when secretaries of state have done this, they've issued a press release. There was no press release this time.
No, there wasn't. And the order actually was issued in June, and it laid out these dates. Now, one of the questions is, because I talked to a lot of election officials as well, and you know, generally this would have been the year to do it. We had the surprise August election, which kind of got in the way of that, and so it was paused. But I talked to a couple big counties who haven't even done it yet, including Cuyahoga County, because they had elections that fell within that window that LaRose had set. So, you know, some did, some didn't. Most of them said to me it was routine. And I actually didn't write about it because I feel like there's so much confusion out there. It would make people wonder if they were purged when it was.
Yeah.
It's often people who have moved or who have died.
Listen, understand that it's the law, right? Understand that a press release was sent out several months before, but it's in this age of social media, you know, this digital age that we're in, you could have given voters the respect and the courtesy to let them know that this purge is coming, right?
Which they did.
And that's why people always think that elected officials have things to hide, because stuff like this happens.
But they do notify people by the U.S. Post Office, forwardable mail to their next address, et cetera. So they've made a lot of different steps, but it's hard to reach everybody, particularly when some people move around a lot.
But don't forget that LaRose had set a precedent of sharing the list before the removals were made with some good government groups who are trying to work on, you know, things like the NAACP and the League of Women Voters and other voting rights groups to try to contact these folks and keep them from getting it improperly removed. And that also didn't happen in addition to the press release. So whether it was just he was busy possibly running for U.S. Senate, or maybe he, you know, it was such a crazy year and all kinds of other things.
Dirk, we talked about the photo ID. Now, obviously, the first election, actually last May was the first election with the photo ID requirement, and then August was another one, and November will be another one. And a lot of people just don't know you need it yet. But part of the problem is the rules keep changing. Are we going to settle on a set of rules and just keep them maybe for 2 election cycles, and so we know what the rules are, we can get used to them?
Sure. I mean, first off, you know, we need to know who you are and who's voting, right? So the ID thing, I totally get that. But because the rules keep changing, you also need to increase your communication to the voters to let them know what those changes are. And, you know, a press release, everybody doesn't see the press release that went out. You know, everybody's on social media, though. Most people are. It takes 2 seconds to put a 10-second notice out there to say that a purge is coming or this change is coming. I just think it's responsible as an elected official to do that.
Are there any more voting changes coming, Terry, or are we going to settle in for a while and get used to this system?
Well, part of it is when people and groups from out of state keep filing lawsuits and making it tangled, but hopefully it's settled out. And we haven't mentioned the one little thing of, I thought on election day there'd be people out getting signatures on redistricting, but then they screwed up in their petition, so that they won't be out there gathering signatures at the polling places.
Yeah, that was won't have a huge effect, but there was a typo, Julie. When they had the date of something 15th when it should have been the 19th, the other way around. They missed it by 1 number.
Yes.
Typo. Nobody caught it. They didn't catch it the first time. The Attorney General didn't catch it. The ballot board didn't catch it, but somebody caught it, and they said, well, just to be safe, let's start over.
Right. So they literally are going back to the drawing board, hopefully, because our Attorney General, Dave Yost, had rejected their language 2 different times before they got approved. So hopefully if they just change that number, recollect the 1,000 signatures and get it back to them, they won't run into any problems with 2 or 3 rejections again, because now they're getting, their time will get tighter and tighter.
This will cost them money, though, Derek, right? Because they had hoped to have this petition ready to go for right now, early voting time and election day, get signatures, high
Yes.
quality, valid signature rate. Now they're going to have to hire additional signature collectors down the road.
Not just money, taxpayer money. Taxpayer money that could have been saved and
No,
spent on
this is a
something.
private effort that from out-of-state money in order to change our constitution. So,
But you're talking about election officials having to
Yes.
review stuff and things like
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
right. But these details are important, because if you don't have the details right, that's the thing that people go to court on and argue, and sometimes gets laws or constitutional limits knocked out. So if you're going to do it, you better do it right.
Well, they fessed up, they said it was wrong, and now they're starting over. Anyway, there are other races and issues on the ballot: mayor, city council, school board, school levies. Columbus City Schools seeks a $100 million levy. About half of the levy would pay for operating expenses. The other half would pay to maintain the district's more than 100 school buildings. It would cost property owners about $270 for each $100,000 in property value. School officials say the district needs the money to make up for pandemic relief funding, which ends soon. Opponents criticize the way administrators run the district, and they point to declining enrollment. Terry Casey, you're not a fan of this levy, I take it, but is it the levy itself or the size of it that
Well,
makes you
my
mad?
biggest concern, and I wanted to fact check this morning, I talked to the treasurer's office. They have today, actually October 11th, $468 million sitting there in cash, unspent, unencumbered. Plus they've got a bunch of millions more of COVID money they've got till September of next year to spend. They're spending $36,000 per pupil, vast amount of money. For the limited number of students they have. And the question is, they've got buildings, as one of the TV shows this week uncovered, buildings that are sitting half full and half used. And I would guess if the board looked at the number of non-teaching staff, the bureaucracy, they could save some money that way, because the money ought to be focused in the classrooms. So, and the performance, obviously, there's only one district out of 607 in the whole state that have a lower score on their performance. So customers legitimately should say, why do you really need the money? What are you going to do with it, and why haven't you been performing?
Of course, urban districts face many more challenges
Yeah.
than suburban districts from socioeconomic issues. But Derek, this has been a pretty divisive issue. The NAACP has come out against it. Some former school board members have come out against it. It's not a unified front.
Sure. Not quite sure where the NAACP in their total reasoning for coming out against the levy, but what I will say is that this levy is important because this is the future workforce of Central Ohio. And we have all these new companies coming here. We have Intel, we got the new Honda plant, we got 40 plus suppliers to the Intel plant. So, and when you have school buildings that are averaging 45 years old, then we're going to have to make sure that those school buildings are up to date for our kids so that they can learn in the best environment possible.
The argument Nana Watson makes and the NAACP makes is that the school department is not well run. They didn't like the way the superintendent search was handled. They didn't think it was transparent enough. Is this more of a criticism of their administration than it is whether the money is too much or too little?
Yeah, we'll have to talk to Nana Watson about that. But I know that Dr. Chapman is trying to, turn this school district around and make it world class for not only our workforce, but workforce around the country.
And I don't think we can forget either that the legislature has passed this year universal vouchers. There's a good chance a school district, in this range is going to be hit pretty hard financially by that. And also, it's maybe ginning up some of the competition they're looking for to say, we have flashy new buildings and we need to have a way to attract families to stay here rather than to go elsewhere.
But the good news, when I talked to the treasurer's office this morning, they explained that the legislature changed the law so the money for the vouchers is not coming out of Columbus school money, it's coming out of state money. So that, I didn't realize that till this morning. So that's good news that $1.64 billion they have for capital and operating money for only 46,000 students. that's all theirs. They're not taking money out for vouchers.
Yeah, the only other thing I will say about that is that the kids get caught up in these political fights, and those are the ones that are suffering.
All right, we'll see how it plays out. Off the record time, final parting shots. Derek Clay, you go first.
This week, the Columbus Zoo did a groundbreaking for their North America exhibit. It's going to be a $30+ million exhibit. The last time they did a renovation was in 1985, so it should be good.
All right, Terry.
Mike, the big topic of the week we haven't talked about, it's University of Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. Will Jim Harbaugh be punished accordingly for sign stealing and cheating? And I would offer the suggestion, instead of calling him the Weasley Wolverines, let's call them the cheetahs, if you think of that animal, because I think Harbaugh and cheetahs kind of go together.
All right, Julie.
I'm just going to, I guess, end with a public service announcement. We're really close to the election, and be careful of misinformation, disinformation. It's everywhere. I'm working every day on it, and check your reliable sources to make sure you understand the issues.
To that end, as you prepare to vote and you need more information on candidates and issues and the new rules about casting your ballot, visit WOSU's Ohio Voter Guide. It's on our website, WOSU.org. And of course, it's a great day. It's a great year when we actually get to trick or treat on Halloween. None of this beggars night stuff. October 31st, kids will be around. They'll be handing out candy. None of this socialism run amok beggars night stuff. Columbus on the Record, that's it for this week. Continue the conversation on Facebook. Watch us anytime at our website, WOSU.org, or on the PBS video app. For our crew and for our panel, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.